And I remember Jordan came over and I was just so confused, like why he looked pissed off or sad. And he finally got to my door and I let him in and he just said like Eli passed away.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. I am your host, Todd Rennebaum. Boy, what a wonderful night I had on Wednesday night. I was asked to do a bit of speaking at an event called More Joy Regina, and it was amazing. There was hundreds of people out. There was vendors and presenters, and it's just a bunch of really, really wonderful people and talking about mental health. Even the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions was there, Honorable Everett Hinley. I want to say thank you to Krista Leaf Rose for putting it on and for being such an inspiration, and for all the volunteers that helped out and the other speakers. Carissa Holfert, she is wonderful. She's a beautiful singer. You can check her out. And Darcy Lang, she was the keynote speaker, and she was also an inspiration and just a wonderful lady. So thank you, and thank you to everybody that came out, and I look forward to doing more events like that in the future. On the topic of the future, I'd like to talk about next week's episode. That's with pleasure expert and feminist sex coach, Robin Hilton. She's also a sex ed educator in the high school. She does presentations there. And we just talk a lot about sex and mental health and how the two are connected. And let me tell you, there's a lot to talk about. So we talked for over 2 hours, actually. So I'm going to split it up into a couple episodes, and you can wait for part two further down the future. The week after that, I'm talking with Jessica Buchanan, and she's got a new book out. And we're talking about her. She was kidnapped by Somalian land pirates. I think it was about 10 years ago. And she had to live out in the desert with armed men for over 3 months. And so we talk about how she got out of that situation, what it was like living in that situation, and what it was like coming home and having that kind of trauma. I also talked with, just today, she's former Miss Universe, and her name is Ashley Collingbull. She was also Miss Canada at one time, and she was the first Indigenous woman to get that title. And she talks about growing up poor and with a lot of abuse and just a lot of problems that Indigenous people face, not just in Canada, but in lots of places all over the world, and just how she overcame it, and now she's an actress and a model, and she's the first Indigenous woman to be in Sports Illustrated. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to all those. But this week I'm speaking with Skylar Roth, and what an amazing guy this guy is. I think he's only like 25 years old, and he's accomplished so much already, including running across Canada. And I don't know if you realize this, but Canada is really big. I think it was over 7,000 kilometers he ran, and he did it about 4 months, and he did it as a fundraiser for mental health, the Canadian Mental Health Association, and he did it for very personal reasons, which you'll hear about in the interview. And he's such a super guy. We keep in contact. We've been chatting back and forth a little bit here. So I think I made a new friend. I think I said that last week. Doesn't matter. He's a really great guy, and he's got a great story. So without further ado, I give you Skylar Roth. Why did you decide to do this run?
Yeah, that's probably like the most commonly asked question, and I think it's fair to ask.
So I'm not unique.
It's pretty crazy to like want to run 7,300 kilometers across the country. But the biggest reason is I think just the curiosity from like a kid. Like everyone kind of does the Terry Fox run in elementary school, and I was always just in awe, like to think that someone let alone someone battling cancer, one leg, and to be doing this in an era where there's no Google Maps and this kind of stuff. I was just blown away. So, everyone had their role models growing up. Everyone looked up to, certain people, and Terry Fox was one of those dudes for me. And, I kept that with me, growing up. And then the second reason is I wanted to do a big fundraiser for mental health awareness. This was obviously during the pandemic, so there was a lot of mental health struggle, way more than normal years, I suppose, when you look at the numbers. And I also lost two best friends to suicide when I was 12 years old and 16 years old.
Hmm.
So, I knew I wanted to do this run for Josh and Eli. I wanted to do this run for, everyone going through mental health struggle across Canada. And I wanted to do it to, accomplish something that I always wanted to do. So I felt like that was the time to do it. And yeah, it was awesome. We ended up raising 65 grand for the Canadian Mental Health Association. So yeah, it was an awesome 4.5 months. That's for sure.
I bet. Yeah. Um, I talked to another guy who did a walk and a fasting from northern Saskatchewan down to Regina. And it's just like these stories of people that do these kind of treks. It's just fascinating to me. I would love to one day be able to do something like that. Of course, I would walk. I wouldn't run because, yeah, I'm fat and old. But just the whole, like, it must have been quite the adventure. Like every night is just you're in a whole different place. And would you stay with people that like supporters and stuff that, we're coming through this town, can we camp in your backyard or whatever, stuff like that? Or was it always kind of planned spots where you would stop, or how did that whole thing work?
Well, that's where it was tough because of the pandemic, right? Like any other year, I think it would have been way easier. So yeah, we were at the point where it would have been weird for like me to reach out to someone. But in Saskatchewan, people always ask the nicest province. It's Saskatchewan and Newfoundland. And those are still provinces where you could have like asked people and they would have been like, absolutely. So we had like a 35-foot RV. We'd sleep at like rest stops, truck stops, campsites. And then there would be people that would reach out over social media and offer, those were the best nights. Usually you got to have a good conversation with people, and that would lead into mental health. And that was like the whole point of the run. And then you realize like everyone across Canada is going through it. But yeah, I've made friends across the country just from people supporting me. So it was good. Yeah. But wide variety on where we would stay.
Hmm.
You wouldn't know some nights. Like some days we would plan to run 75K. And then like I'd get a blister or something that would like, we'd just call it a night at like 55K. So like that 15-kilometer offset or whatever, that messes it up. So lots of thinking on the fly and lots of responsibility for like my crew that, had to sort that stuff out. So yeah.
Hmm. You talked about losing a friend at 12 years old to suicide. That's incredibly young.
Yeah, man. Yeah, grade 7. Josh was one of my best friends. Like I met Josh when I started playing soccer with him when we were 7, and we were on the same team. We played for the competitive team in Red Deer. So those of you that aren't familiar with Red Deer, it's a city of about 100,000 people. And then our team would go and play an hour and a half down the road in an Edmonton league. So we played together since we were 7 until we were 12. And Josh's dad was in the military. Josh's mom took her life in 2001. So
Hmm.
Josh and I would have been like 5 years old. So I'd never known Josh's mom, but so we would always give Josh a ride to soccer practices, soccer games. Other parents would too. Josh was a huge part of our team. And one year in grade 7, we were fundraising. Our team was getting ready to go to England to play soccer for a couple weeks. And a few weeks before we were set to leave, we were practicing, and It was super, super weird, off vibe. Josh wasn't there. Our coach was in and out of the gym. And we thought we weren't going to go to England. And then, after practice, all of us our coach made sure that we were all with our parents and everything. And I'll never forget when my mom told me that Josh took his life. And yeah, 12 years old, man, like never had his first kiss, never got to drive a car, never got to go to the bar. Just there's so much stuff, and like such a permanent solution for such a temporary feeling. And I think about it every single day. Like I'm 26 years old now. He took his life in 2009, March 3rd. And I think about it every single day. So when people ask me like, how do you not quit running across Canada? It's like, dude, the pain that like Josh and the pain that Eli and the pain that we're all going through, a lot of us are going through, like you can't quit. Like the pain in my calf is like fuck all compared to, that pain of depression that sits on your chest. So
I
having, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can't imagine being 12 years old and losing a friend that way. I mean, I know it's not super uncommon to be that young, and you hear people attempting or having suicidal thoughts at that age, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you never know what's going on. And like that's why I go into schools and I talk with schools. And when schools ask like is grade 5 and 6 too young? No,
Mm-mm.
not at all. We need to equip these students with tools so that like when these dark shitty times come, like you're ready. So it's so important.
I mean, I wrote a kid's book called Sometimes Daddy Cries, and I mean, like that's
Oh
like
man,
a little kid's book, right? So like, no, you're never too young to talk about
that's awesome.
mental health issues. Like, yeah, that's I can't believe
Those are the
people ask
changes
that.
we need to like make, because like I can picture myself being like a 5 or 6 year old in bed and like having my dad read that or my mom read that to me, and like that would make it so normal. Like it wouldn't be weird,
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
dad to cry. So like those are the small changes, big changes, uh that we need to do. So props for that, man. It's awesome.
Oh, thanks. And yeah, it's amazing that you chose mental health as your
For my fundraiser.
yeah. Thank you. And to go
Yeah.
around talking about it to schools and stuff. I wouldn't now. I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit about Eli's story because being 4 years later and then it happens again to you.
Yeah. So like after Josh, like that, like I didn't know how to deal with any of that. Like that happened almost at like halfway through grade 7. So the rest of grade 7 was tough. Rest of grade 8 was tough. And then grade 9, I'm off into high school. And thankfully I had teammates there. And I kind of found like my passion, my motivation again. Um, so grade 9, I kind of started to see the light again. And then grade 10, grade 10 was awesome. I'm hanging out with Eli and Eli and Jordan and Sam. And Jordan and Sam are still like my best friends today. I just did a 25K run with Jordan the other day. And we're all going to run the Berlin Marathon this coming fall for mental health. So we're all really tight. But so I found these amazing group of guys, and then I remember we finished exams. I was just finishing grade 10. The older boys just finishing grade 11, and they were all going to come over, and we're going to basically just start summer vacation. And I remember Jordan came over, and I was just so confused, like why he looked pissed off or sad. And he finally got to my door, and I let him in, and he just said, like, Eli passed away. And I thought, man, it must have been like a car accident or something like that, because, and we see this all the time, but like Eli was like Team Alberta basketball, Team Alberta soccer, like handsome dude. Like every girl wanted this guy, straight A student, like you name it. And would have been the last person you would have thought would take his life. So when I found out he committed suicide, I couldn't believe it. And that just took all that healing I'd done from Josh and just ripped that scab right off. And I started feeling guilty and I felt like a piece of shit. And which I know isn't like the case, but that's just how I felt at that time. Like, who loses two friends to suicide before the age of like 17 years old? Like, I felt like I was the issue. And I've worked through that, and I've gone to counseling and all of that, and I live a life for them now. I don't um but yeah, that was tough. And then so following that, like, that summer was supposed to be the best summer ever. It was the worst. And grade 11 and 12 was just fueled um of partying and drinking. Like, I would skip school, didn't give a shit about school. Yeah, like, I had no goals or motivation. I was getting overweight, like everything that I didn't want to be, like I was becoming. And I got to the point, like, in college, I ended up going to college on a soccer scholarship, and then I lost it because I had too many concussions. Once I lost that, like, I was at the point of like, what am I doing here? And I wanted to take my life. And that ended up being my turning point. And which ultimately led to running and doing these sorts of things for mental health. I kind of shifted, like, letting Josh and Eli, like, losing them, like, wreck my life, because I was able to then turn it and shine a light, not just for me but for others. And I'm happy now. I want to live a full life, and I just want to share that with people, that like, depression is not a forever thing. Like, life is pretty damn beautiful. And you don't have to let your past like hold you back from doing like amazing things.
Do you think that that moment you realized that, oh shit, I'm having these thoughts too, you kind of looked back and thought, okay, I saw all this pain from other people that lost Josh, and I'm sorry, I forgot your other friend's
Eli.
name. And Eli, I can't do that to other people. I need to do something.
Yeah, man. Like, that's exactly what happened. Like, I guess I'll tell the story. Like, I was 19. It would have been the spring of 2016. And yeah, I wrote my letter to my mom and my sister. I drove to the mountains, and my plan was to just hike up to the top of a mountain and take my life. And as I was like hiking halfway up, like, this flurry came in. Like, it was like a snow globe. And I've done a lot of hiking since this day. I've done over 100 mountains since that day, and I've never seen the weather change like this since that day. And so it got to the point where I couldn't see like 3 feet in front of me. And so I just sat down and waited it out. But that's exactly like you said. Like, I started to think about like the impact that Josh's death and Eli's death had on their family and their community. And I thought, like, can I actually do this to my sister and my mom and my dad and my friends? And I don't know if it's the power of the mountains. I guess I know it is the power of the mountains, and being there with no distraction, just your thoughts. And I decided that day, like I said, that's my turning point. Is I'm going to hike to the top of this mountain, not to take my life, but to show myself how strong I actually am. And that mountain symbolized a lot of my battle with depression. Like, it's an uphill battle and it sucks, but when you get through it, like, fuck, life is beautiful, man. And that day, like, after I finished the mountain, I was driving home to, give my mom and my sister the biggest hug ever. And I started setting goals, and I had that fire in my belly again. And I was 19 and said I want to climb 100 mountains by the time I'm 25 years old. And that goal led to friendships and other goals, and ultimately a run across Canada. So that day, like, I also think about, like, so often, because the day I was supposed to end my life ended up being like the day, like, I was reborn. And yeah, I'm so happy I didn't take my life.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Yeah, I didn't realize you actually came that close to it. There's been moments in my life where it's been like, there's that saying, it's always darkest before dawn. And it's so true. It's like you hit this peak of like, I cannot do it any further. And then once you just go over that little boop, and then it's like, oh, okay, this is actually getting better.
Mhm.
Even with panic attacks, when I was in addiction treatment, I wanted to leave so bad. It was in my second week, and I was like in the bathroom having a panic attack, and then it was like after that moment, it was like I don't know, everything was just so much easier. I mean, that's minuscule compared to wanting to, climbing a mountain and wanting to take your life at the top of a mountain, but um,
It's the same as like the Canada run though too. Like when you push through like kilometer 55 when you think you're like at your limit for that day, it's crazy sometimes. Like you'll push through that and you'll get a kilometer 70 and it'll feel like you're just starting to run for the day. So
mm-hmm,
like I see so many parallels with, like battling suicidal thoughts or depression or, addictions too. Like, man, if like getting through that tough point when you literally think you can't and like that is it, there's just like so much power on the other side of that. And it's crazy. There's so many parts of our life where we can see that.
mm-hmm. Well, good on you. That's pretty amazing. Did your family realize you were hurting that bad at that time?
Like my mom and my sister, yeah, I think so. Like my sister walked into like our garage with me, like trying to like carbon monoxide myself, in high school.
Hmm.
So yeah, man, like times are really dark, and like, and the reason I'm so open about this is like, so people that are listening that are like, man, like I'm going through this too. There is so much more life waiting for you. And if you can get through these times, like life will reward you, I promise. And yeah, there's like every day, like I didn't, like like, and it got to the point of like getting a bad grade on an exam. I would like want to go and I would think going to take my life would be worth it. Something so little like that could trigger my brain to thinking like taking your life is better. Like not wanting to go to work a day. Like you think taking your life is a better option. Something so silly that I look at now and I'm like, man, but like that's just how depression works. So for everyone that is listening to this that can relate, like life gets better and life is beautiful and it will reward you. You just have to keep going.
It's nice talking to another man about this. Not that
Yeah. Yeah.
for some
It's
reason a
definitely,
lot of men don't talk about it, um, and it's so common with young men, and it seems to be like middle aged men. For some reason those age um, groups. There's a lot of male suicide. Um, but yeah, it's
but to add to your point, because like men at the same time, it's not like a surprise, like growing up. And that's why I'm so glad you wrote that book, is because like I grew up, like I didn't see my dad cry. I didn't see my grandpa cry. I didn't see my uncles cry. Like we were supposed to hold that stuff in, right? Like it's not a surprise to me when we see the numbers in men's mental health and suicide. Um, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest, and it breaks my heart, but it doesn't shock me. And I think there is a lot of power to crying. Like you're literally letting your emotion out. Like like there's I always feel way better after I cry. So like, if it happens and I just start crying, I'll just cry. Like it is what it is. There's no shame about it.
it's true. And I can relate completely about those weird little moments that when you're in the thick of suicidal thoughts, you've been kind of obsessing about it for a few months, and then something small like that can just be like it makes it it's weird how it becomes like a viable option. It's like, oh
It's
man,
crazy.
I don't want to go to work today. Well, I could take my life, it's like you said, it sounds so stupid, but that's exactly where your brain goes. It's like that's the default, that's the first option it goes to, and it's like, well, there is that, and
It's
it's
crazy.
amazing how we don't go there, and like how we do somehow like realize, okay, this is, you know that's not really an option.
Well,
um
it's amazing how many do take their lives because of that. Like
yeah.
Josh was 12 years old and his dad, you know, um, his dad's not the reason Josh went suicide. I love Josh's dad. And we still stay in touch. But Josh hid his report card from his dad.
Hmm.
His dad said, "You're not going to England," to teach him a lesson. His dad said, he's like, obviously I was going to let him go to England, but, and fair enough. Like if I had a kid, like I'd probably do that too. Like you don't expect your kid to take their life because of that.
Yeah.
And Josh did. Obviously there's other stuff. Like Josh lost his mom when he was 5. It's like that compounding effect, right? And when I look at like suicidal thoughts, you look at a spectrum of like 1 to 10. How 10 being like you're taking your life? How are you going to make a good thought or a good decision, but when you're at like an 8 to 10? It's almost impossible, man. And like you like we're saying, like, do I go to work or do I take my life today? Like we're at like a 9 or an 8 out of 10 already at that point. Like if we were at like a 2 or a 3, we wouldn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's why, like, one thing I do share when I talk to schools is like, um, when you're in your really good like mind state of mind, like just take note, like even in your iPhone notes, like things that make you happy. Like for example, the other day, like I was kind of having like a crappy morning. I was probably sitting at like a 3 or a 4 out of 10. I just went and had a shower, and like all of a sudden I was like at like a 1 out of 10. So I can put that in my notes. And then reading like a chapter of a book, like I know reading it for 20 minutes is going to lower my heart rate. It's probably going to take my mind off what was bothering me. So when I'm making this list, when times are good, when times start to get bad, I can reference this list and kind of do these things to like bring that back down to like, because yeah, once you're in that like 8 out of 10, man, it is impossible to make a good decision. And I think most people that take their lives, if they were to like be given a second chance, they would be like, yeah, I wouldn't, like, that's crazy. I would have taken my life for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But it's true. It's like little things can keep you from going from an 8 and 9, and it's the little things when you're an 8 and 9 that can set you over the edge.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
And once you get into that 8, 8, 9 spectrum, it just keeps sucking in. It's almost like you crave that darkness. It's almost like you sabotage yourself. It's like you're like, I was so depressed for so long. This is like 10 years ago or so. And it was like, if I felt myself feeling even semi content, it's like, I'm not miserable right now.
Yeah,
My mind and my body would like sabotage it. I'd be like, no,
self-sabotage,
it's
bro.
like,
You
no,
know?
you can't feel content. It's like,
Yeah,
and then then I'd like almost make conscious effort to make myself an 8 or a 9. It's like, what the fuck?
yeah.
What is going on with this?
Cutting people off out of your life, like, yeah, like so much stuff like that. Like it's just like some, like I even notice it with like relationships where it's like, oh, this is like going too good, man. Like, hmm, I need to be like back into my 8 or 9 out of 10. So like that's something I've really worked on. And it's great. It sounds so simple, but it's like we need to allow ourselves to be happy. And
Yeah.
when you've been battling this shit for so long, it's pretty easy to like be used to like depression. It's like it almost becomes a friend. It's like, oh, hey, you're back. Like, welcome.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that it's wild.
When I was in addiction treatment, it was like, you have to learn to feel your feelings. It's like, I know how to feel my feelings. I know how to feel shitty and miserable. It was actually, I had to learn how to feel content and just okay in my own body. And I had to feel boredom and not have it like drive me crazy. It was
Sounds easy and it's not.
Yeah, yeah. And you think it's easy to feel happy, but after being miserable for so long, it is hard. It's like, holy shit, I have to allow myself to feel, not even super happy, just neutral. Even was like, I felt guilty for feeling neutral some days. I was like,
Yeah,
it took a long time, but you're right. Like, you do have to work on it, and it
that's
sounds
right.
crazy to people that don't understand, but it's true.
That's why it's so important to like go and talk to someone. And like that's so awesome. Like you went and got help. Like because that's the thing is like we think we know the answers. So like these professionals, like they're not going to tell us something we already don't know.
Hmm.
That's what we think, right? Or at least that's what I would think. And then you go and talk to these professionals, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm learning a lot of stuff that I wouldn't even know, like learning how to feel happy. Like when you hear that, you're like, huh, yeah, I guess I do like try to avoid that. And so, yeah, there's just so much stuff that's like behind the curtain that like we in our own brains that we don't want to like acknowledge. It's actually pretty wild. So anyone listening, man, like go and talk to someone. Like it's crazy. They help bring pull that curtain back a little bit and help you deal with the stuff that we've been avoiding. And life gets way better when you deal with that stuff.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's still hard times.
Always
But
work to be done. Yeah.
yeah, but that's the thing. There's always work to be done. But then you just level up. You just get more help and more help, and you
Yeah.
level up. And
Level
it,
up.
it's been wacky, man. For me, it's I don't want to make this episode about me, but
I'm enjoying, and I think it's important that like we're both being open about our mental health.
I was just diagnosed with ADHD recently, and
Okay. Yeah.
it's been life changing. It's I literally think that was been a huge problem of mine forever. That's caused a lot of the addiction, the anxiety, the depression. I mean, I think I do also have like anxiety issues, but having ADHD on top of that's not helping. And then they say like the older you get with ADHD, the more you kind of spin your tires, because when you're young, you can, you get your treatment, you get medication, you learn more about it. So yeah, I've been spinning my wheels for 45 years now, and it's like I'm on new meds. I'm
Meds are game changers. Hey, like I also got
absolutely.
diagnosed with that like a couple months before the Canada run, and exact same
Oh,
thing,
okay.
dude. It's like if I had this during school, like man, like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's funny. I look back. I have a couple episodes coming up about ADHD and stuff, but I look back and it's like you do kind of grieve too. It's like, oh, what if I had this when I was 14? Would I have gone through all this shit that I went through and caused other people this
Yeah,
pain and stuff? But at the same time, it's like, hey, man, whatever. I'm here now,
can't
and
change that now.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I've never been. It's weird. It's like I'm almost proud to be ADHD now. It's like, holy fuck, I fought for 45 years. Now I have this diagnosis, and it's like I'm not ashamed anymore of who I am. It's
yeah.
like, what? Fuck you. I got ADHD. Boom.
Well, you know what's interesting is a lot of like successful CEOs of like of companies of ADHD. Like I was reading that in Men's Health, and it just went through this like list. So like just like anything, man, like you can turn something into like a superpower. Like I would never want someone to go through that depressing shit I went through. But I went through it and I learned a lot of stuff and I got really mentally strong and I learned how not to quit. So when I apply that to a Canada run, I have a lot of tools I can use. So yeah, like ADHD, when you find something passionate, like when guys like you and me find something that we like, man, we are all in. Like you're not going to put more time into something than us. And like that's where ADHD is such a superpower, is like when you do find that thing, you're hyper focused. But if there's something you're not interested in, yeah, we do not care. So yeah, like you can totally use ADHD as a superpower, man. A lot of successful people do.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, it's gotten me this far, but now that it's like,
Hey, you're running a podcast, man. Pretty
yeah,
cool. And I
well,
saw you were doing you're doing an event coming up.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm doing a live recording with a comedian who's been on the show before, but we're gonna do a live event here in my small town of Indian Head, Saskatchewan,
Cool.
and
Which I ran by the way.
right, yeah, you're in Alberta, right?
I'm from Alberta, yeah,
Oh,
but yeah, when I was running across Canada, like I ran. I just remember that huge grain elevator.
yeah, I've climbed that before. Oh, uh,
I mean, you would like to maybe climb it one day, right? Yeah.
I was a teenager. I climbed
Wink,
it,
wink, wink.
but
That is cool.
yeah, that was before cameras and things. But
Yeah.
so where are you from now then?
So like I'm gonna be moving to Calgary at the end of the month. I just like to be. I'm like right now. I'm just by Edmonton.
Oh, okay,
I've
okay.
always lived in Alberta my whole life.
Oh, I see, I see.
But my girlfriend, who I actually met on the run across Canada, she lives in Ottawa. She's moving to Calgary at the end of the month. So another funny kind of story from the Canada run
I was gonna
is,
say, how do you find time to meet girls while you're running across Canada?
and well, that was the funny thing, is like I definitely wasn't, because like the one thing that was like cool. Okay, let me first of all say this. I was single for 4 years before going into the Canada run. And like during those 4 years, like essentially I was like although I didn't necessarily know I was going to be running across Canada, I was like training for it. Like all I was doing was running in the gym and doing these hikes and these mountains. And then that led to the Canada run. But I was being pretty selfish with my life being a single dude. And so going into the Canada run, like the last thing I expected was to like meet my girlfriend. And so, um, but running across Canada, a lot of people would reach out and they would, like, can I grab you dinner? Can I grab you lunch? Can I run with you? Canada Running Magazine did a couple
Forrest
pieces.
Gump.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? I still haven't seen that movie.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I know it. People lose their mind when I say that, but I will watch it though. But yeah, people want to run with me, and Laura reached out, and she took me out for dinner, and then she ran with me, and yeah, we just kept in contact and been doing long distance since September 2021. So it's yeah, finally, like, so excited. She's been out to Alberta a few times now. Got to play in the mountains a lot, so I sold her on Alberta, and yeah, super excited to be like 45 minutes away from Canmore and just to be able to go and do that stuff with her. So, but yeah, it's funny how like when you do something like set a goal and you do what you love, how it just attracts like everything around. Like I have very like-minded friends. I have a very like-minded girlfriend, and that's because I like set out these goals and lived a life, and I'm not a Cupid or a relationship coach, but when people ask me like, how do you know, it's like, dude, go and do the stuff you want to do. You're going to meet the people that you want to be with in these situations, so it's no secret.
She'll move in, you'll break up in 2 weeks.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. that would be bad.
Let's not break up, but move back to Ottawa. We do better apart. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So that must have been your favorite night going across Canada, was meeting her.
The favorite night was definitely the night before I was done, man. I was so happy to, like, I remember my body was shutting down by Newfoundland. Like, for those of you guys that don't know either, like, Newfoundland's 900 kilometers across. It's the third longest province. Just because you have to like go up. If you picture like an A without like the middle part, you go up and then you kind of have to come down. So it's not like a straight across. So yeah, and very, very, very hilly. Second hilliest province next to BC. And the winds for the first like 3 days were like 60 kilometers an hour. Like the efficiency was brutal. Like if you compare like a fuel efficiency from like a car and then like a human, calories being like your fuel, like I'd be burning so much more running into that wind. So those were hell. So come that last day when I knew I was like 55K, 60K out of St. John's, I slept good that night. I was so excited to be done that run.
What are some other memorable nights you had across Canada? You started in BC, right?
Yeah, I started Victoria June 1st, 2021, and I finished in St. John's October 21st, 2021. One crazy night was day 10. We were in between Christina Lake and Castlegar, BC. So right in the interior. And because it was the pandemic, just super quiet. I mean, it's a quiet area of BC anyways. Like the Trans-Canada is where it has most of the traffic, but I decided to run on the Highway 3, the Crow's Nest Pass in southern BC. And one night we were going up this mountain pass, and the plan was to sleep the night at the top of the pass so that the next day it would be a nice downhill. It was like a downhill 20K. So it was like, sweet, awesome. So do the hard work, have a good meal, go to bed, and then reward ourselves with an easy morning the next day. Now, the bad part about this mountain pass is there was no cell service. So, and typically with the run is like, I would talk to my driver. I would say, okay, like, because this was an uphill, I just told them to take like, those rest stops or those turnouts, like just take every single one, like I'll run up to you. I'll grab water. I'll do anything I need to do. And then you can go up to the next one. I'll catch up. So I would say like every 3 to 8 kilometers. But then I wouldn't, after like a couple hours, I hadn't seen him. So I was like, what the heck? Like, why would he drive all the way up? Like, we made this plan. And I was like really, really confused. And because it should have been only like 45 minutes. So I started to realize it's like something was up. I thought maybe like the battery died or like my dog Duke got out and they were looking for him. And the longer the time went by, like the worse the thoughts got. And it was starting to get close to sunset, I remember. So it was like 8:30 at night. And I had a bag of pistachios and I had water bottles and there was a stream like off the side of the highway. So I was like, it's shitty, but if I have to stay the night, like I can stay the night. And so I was starting to mentally get prepared for that. I was starting to fill my water bottles up at the stream. And as I was filling up my water bottle, I just like felt this presence. Like I just felt like this sniff. And like all the hairs on the back of like my neck just popped up. So I was like, Jesus, like I gotta get out of here. So the highway was quiet enough that I could just like walk on that yellow middle line. And I had my bear spray out as well with the safety off. So like ready to spray. I didn't know if a human messing with me or a bear, like what. So I was like continuing to walk on this yellow line.
A skinwalker.
Yeah, man, I had no idea. And plus, like, keep in mind, it's like 30 degrees and I'm on like kilometer 70. So like I'm playing all sorts of head games.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just remember the RV finally passed me and I was like, what the heck? And so Chris, he had pulled over and I hopped in the RV and it was like almost 3 hours since I'd seen him. And he was like, dude, like I've been like looking for you. And I'm like, I've been looking for you. Like it's a single lane highway. How do we like, it's a 35-foot RV. Like, how do I don't miss that. And he's like, I don't know, dude. He's like, we've been like waiting for you. So weird. And I told them, I'm like, okay, I think I'm being followed by something. So like now it's really quiet on the highway. So you can probably just like tail me for like every like a kilometer or whatever, like stay close. And because we were so close to the top of the pass and like I just remember it was like a pink and orange sunset, like over the mountains. Like it was sweet. So I was like, let's go run like another 3 or 4K. We have like 25 minutes. And then I hopped out, I ran down the highway and this couple, like they pulled up over, they were in a convertible and they're like, what are you doing? Like, are you okay? And which is fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, like I told them what I was doing. And they're like, okay, like be careful. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And it was weird because that was actually the first time like someone pulled over to like see if I was doing okay. Now that interaction is important because of like what happens next after they drive away. I continue running down the road and this mountain lion jumps up on the guardrail.
Oh God.
6 to 10 feet away with me, mouth wide open. And the thing is if that car hadn't stopped, I would have been further down the highway and where that cougar jumped up, it would have been behind me. So then it would have probably stalked me from behind. But the cougar couldn't see because I'm going up like a mountain pass, right? So it's like a cliff off on the side, hence the guardrail.
Mm-hmm.
So it hopped up over the cliff, probably assuming I was like further down the road, but didn't see that couple stopped to talk to me. So I got really lucky because usually you don't see cougars until they attack you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, I bear sprayed it because I had the bear spray in my hand, ran back down the mountain pass. And fortunately, my team was right, a couple 100 meters back. And I hopped in and just broke down in tears from like pure adrenaline. I was just like, holy shit, like that was insane. And not the cougar you want to run into at 9 o'clock at night, man. Like, not. No.
I was gonna say I've been stalked by cougars, but
not that cougar.
No.
Yeah. So that was quite the night. That was day 10, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, this is crazy."
4 more months of this.
Yeah, like that. My friends asked, like, "What's your biggest fear going into this run? Like, are you scared of like not being able to finish it, or like?" I'm like, "No, dude, cougar, 100%. Like, I've like 100%. I'm gonna be out in the darkness, like during dawn and dusk, like great, like." yeah, that's what I'm scared of. And sure enough, day 10, it happened. And it's funny because like there was a lot of like Sportsnet contacted me and we did a piece on that. And every city, like it seemed like across Canada, like that, like Sudbury, for example, Sudbury, Ontario, front page was like, man who encountered a cougar. It was like, dude, I'm running across Canada for mental health. Like, acknowledge that. Like, that should be
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I'm not running for cougar awareness.
No, yeah, it was funny. That kind of stole the headlines for a lot of the run, to be honest.
But maybe they wouldn't have picked up your story at all if that hadn't
Yeah,
happened.
no, yeah, I was definitely stoked. Sportsnet reached out, which they might not have without the cougar. So
Did you have any other kind of higher profile people or anything reach out, or media or anything?
there's this dude who ran across the states. He's a pretty well-known athlete. His name's Hella, and he reached out. We talked, and I was just talking the other day. That was cool. Um, I've had like some Olympians kind of like follow me and stuff, and I had a partnership with ASIC, so like kind of got to meet Olympians through that, and yeah, it was really cool. But it was pretty low key, and I'm not upset about that. Like I definitely quickly got like anxiety because of like you'd have like a news station be like, can you make it here by like Friday at this time? And I'm like, sure, I'm 470K away, but I'll try. I'll be there. Like, and so just I don't know. I know like it got to the point where like I was very happy just being in within that white line on the side of the highway and not talking to anyone. So
Yeah, yeah.
it was nice to not have cell service, for a lot of the run as well. So yeah, I'm right now I'm like on an acreage, like 5 minutes out of like a town. So I'm very much introverted after this run, I think. So
Right. That's funny that that you liked the not the attention. I mean,
yeah,
you're doing something that's going to garner a bunch of attention, but you preferred it when they didn't have cell service.
yeah, and like I'm doing it for mental health awareness. So I have to like understand too, like I need to raise this awareness, we need to fundraise. But like if I were to go and do something like this, not doing a fundraiser, like just for myself, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to do like any interviews. Like, no. It's just too exhausting. Like your main focus should be just on the run itself. And then once you start putting in like, even if you're doing like a 15-minute piece, like you still have to like, and if they want to do it at noon, your whole day is like, it's
Interrupted.
yeah, and it's you almost just call it a day after that, and you're like, oh, we did 30K today instead of 70. Like, okay.
Right, right.
And
Did you
then yeah,
have a timeline that you wanted to finish? Like, did you?
yeah, my goal was 150 days or less, and we did it in 143.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and like Um, the biggest part was that RV was a 1997. I was renting it off someone off Kijiji because everyone was like RVing last year with the pandemic.
Hmm.
Um, I guess 2 years ago now, the new year. Yeah, there's a lot of like RV companies that would be like, we'd love to sponsor you, but our lots are literally empty. So 2 weeks before the run, I didn't even have an RV. So I was like calling people on like Kijiji and like Facebook buy and sell that were selling their RVs. And I kind of told them what I was doing. I was like, would you be open to like me renting it monthly? And then you can like make a bunch of money and then still sell it after. And pretty good deal. So someone took it, but 1997 and RV, some mornings it wouldn't even start. So I would have all my running gear on. I'd be ready to go. And we'd have to take 2 days off because we'd have to take it into like Canadian Tire, like something like a small town would have like a little Canadian Tire or something. And so I think if everything went smoothly, I could have trimmed 3 weeks off.
Like Breaking Bad, Winnebago.
It is exactly what it looked like, man. Like I would not drive this thing by schools. Yeah. Yeah. Like someone's like, you could probably stay in the school parking lot. It's summertime. I'm like, no, I'm not parking this by a playground. This is like has red flags all over it, man. Yeah, no way.
Parents dragging you out in the middle of the night. What are you doing here?
Yeah, it's like I'm running across Canada for mental health, I swear.
Oh, bless you. Oh man, that's fantastic. Do you think Do you think doing this project has like really cemented your mental health and your recovery? Like, do you think it's been like, what am I trying to say here?
Has it helped like my mental health?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because I mean, there's a point in recovery where it's like you can, because it's not a linear thing, recovery.
Yeah,
But do you
yeah.
think it helps cement the base of like, okay, I am in, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. The answer is I don't know, man, because after the run ended, it was a 2022 is like so tough for me because like I was maybe the most depressed I've been in a long time because you go from like having this sense of purpose, you have 500 people messaging you every day. Yeah, I didn't love that and it gave me anxiety, but like it still leaves like a deafening silence after the run is done. And just like the amount of like cortisol, which is like for the people that don't know what that is, that's a stress hormone that is created from like mental stress or physical stress on your body. So 10 million steps across Canada, that generates a ton of cortisol. And to deal with that stress is a huge recovery. And I undershot that so much. I thought it'd be a few months. It was like 10, 11 months. I only finally got back into like full-time training 2 months ago.
Hmm.
So very tough, but also on the flip side, to answer your question, I'm way more open about my mental health. Um, I know what tools are out there. I have a way greater understanding that we're all going through something. And this run gave me the opportunity to go in and speak to, businesses and schools and conventions and that sort of stuff. And when I get to do that, it's really fulfilling and it really helps my mental health. It's like a therapy. So yeah, after I guess now looking at like the recovery's been kind of completed going forward, I think I have a way bigger advantage with dealing with my mental health for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard that lots from people that like, once they finish this major accomplishment, that they will go through this funk
Mm,
for months, whether it's writing a book or um, whatever thing whatever
yeah.
project you have. Even I mean, other athletes too, winning a gold medal or
Yeah,
um,
yeah, Olympics training for 3 years doing the Olympics, and then what after that? Like,
what
wow,
do I
what?
do?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I had
yeah.
a I had a buddy who did that, and he ended up not making the team the next year, and that was his life for like 7 years. What do you do? So, uh, we've just because we think these people that we watch on TV or we see in the news and these quote unquote successful people, they're no different, man. The amount of pressure a lot of these higher profile people hold like creates a lot of mental health struggle.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Tons.
And even like the dopamine you get from slowly working towards your accomplishment, and then you get it. It's like this big dopamine hit, and then it's
Yeah,
like,
it's
yeah,
like you're drained. You got to
now you
recharge
have
it.
dopamine withdrawal.
Yeah, and it took me like 10 months to recharge my dopamine to full strength. So I think the longer and the bigger that project is, you're going to need to charge your battery for way longer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. But once you get
But
through the
once it's charged,
withdrawal, yeah, you're in a better place.
yeah.
How excited was mental health, the Mental Health Association of Canada? No, I'm screwing that up.
Yeah, no, Canadian Mental Health Association.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty good. Like the donations went to like the national level one because obviously people from all over Canada were donating. I would say like the individual branches, like each city were like much more like receptive. Like, I mean, I couldn't even really get an email response from like the national level. So
Hmm.
whatever. But there's your $65,000. But the individual branches, they were very receptive, and they would some would bring me in, kind of show me what their programs looked like, and do interviews and that kind of stuff. So it's a great charity, like, and so for people that are like within a city, like if you're from Regina, they have an awesome facility. Check it out. Like it's awesome. It's probably one of the best in Canada.
Hmm.
Um,
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Regina's is great. They're all great. Regina's and Thunder Bay are the two that come to mind that are like amazing. And there's lots that I didn't get to see. So I'm sure there's lots of like amazing, other top tier ones too. But Regina and Thunder Bay come to mind. And I realized that, like, yeah, man, like if you're struggling, like just go there. Like there's so many options and they have a community, and like you can just go there to chill, like have snacks and like watch like TV with other people. Like if you just need that kind of like social aspect, like there's so much more that I didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm. And they'll help you to find the services you need.
Yeah, they'll help you
Um,
find what you need, what path you need to go down, and then they'll help you find the people that you need and to like get to where you want to be. So, yeah, it's, when you're going through it, especially with mental health, like you're kind of in the dark. So, they kind of just shine the light, help you know like where you need to walk, and then you find it.
mm-hmm. And because Canada has, every province has its own mental health care system. Every province is different. So if you're moving across country or whatever, you're trying to settle in a new place or something. And I mean, as far as I know, no province has an excellent mental health system. So if you are
Lots of work,
struggling, pardon me?
lots of work to be done.
Yeah. So if you are struggling and you can't find a place, you can reach out to the Canadian Mental Health Association, and they'll
Oh yeah, yeah. Go into Google, just like see like where it is in your city, and like just drop in. Like that'll help you just so much. Like, um, yeah, like they just have so many resources there, so it's awesome, and it's free.
hmm is there anything I haven't asked or that you haven't talked about that you wanted to make sure got on the podcast?
I know that since it's the new year, if anyone's like looking to get into running, or not even just running, fitness, and you have fitness goals or running goals you want to reach, like I'd love to help you get to those. So you can reach out to me on like social media.
I just bought an exercise bike last night online.
No way. That's awesome, man. Yeah. And like the biggest thing too is like slower is better. And like it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great. So like
Mm,
don't burn yourself out. Like, I would say for the first month, you want to be sitting at like that 4 out of 10 on the exertion scale. Like it should feel like easy. Build that base. Yeah. Don't go too crazy for anyone, getting back into fitness, like into this year. Like less is more, slower is better. I appreciate you making time and having this conversation.
thank you so much, Skylar. You're an amazing young man, and you know what? You're pretty easy on the eyes too. I appreciate everything you've done for mental health, and for me personally, he's been helping me out with some stuff here. So yeah, he's such a great guy. If you want to hire Skylar or follow him on Instagram, it'll be in the show notes. I got some links there, and I got his email there. And don't be shy. Follow him or email him. Get him to come out and do some talking for your organization or school or whatever. Now, if you want to reach out to me, you can do that on Facebook at Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, and on Instagram, Bunny Hugs Podcast, or on TikTok, Bunny Hugs Podcast. And you can just leave likes or dislikes or messages or comments or whatever you want. I've got all types of memes and reels and stuff about the podcast on there, so go ahead and do that. And please, I'm serious here. I say it every week because it is very important. Please rate and review the podcast on Apple Music. It really, really does help. It bumps you up the ratings and it makes you look good, and then people want to come on your show and stuff like that. So please do that. Another thing real quick, if you are a youth or if you have some youths living with you, or if you know some youths, tell them about Teen Talk Tuesday. You go to the website youthmatter.ca, and somewhere on there it says Teen Talk Tuesdays, and you can sign up. And every Tuesday, no, not every Tuesday, whatever Tuesdays they decide, they have special guests and things for teens to listen to, and it's all about mental health and whatnot. So do yourself a favor if you have youths and check that out. And for crying out loud, please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.